Welcome to Follow Me, 11B. Discussions on current events, macroeconomics, and freedom and liberty from a veteran's perspective. Today I wanted to talk about the ongoing Ukrainian crisis. More specifically, Russian troops amassing on the border of the country of Ukraine. What this means for Europe, what this could mean for the United States, and some of the options President Joe Biden has at his disposal. So let's start off with going straight to one of the first articles I found on the internet entitled, Biden Threatens No Gas Pipeline If Russia Invades Ukraine, from the AP by Amar Madhani, Sylvie Corbett, and Vladimir Ishenkov. It's from the 7th of February. Washington, D.C., in a flurry of diplomacy across two continents, President Joe Biden met with Germany's new leader Monday and vowed the crucial Nord Stream 2 Russia to Germany gas pipeline will be blocked if Russia further invades Ukraine. Russia's Vladimir Putin retorted that the U.S. and its allies are the only ones talking invasion. If Russia invades, that means tanks and troops crossing the border of the Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2, Biden said. We will bring it to an end. That would hurt Russia economically, but it would also cause supply problems for Germany. It would also cause a lot of supply problems for the rest of Europe and the European Union. A buildup of over 100,000 Russian troops near Ukraine has fueled Western worries of a possible offensive. The White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warned Sunday that Russia could invade Ukraine, quote, any day, unquote, triggering a conflict that would come at an enormous human cost. At the same time, Biden and NATO allies have made clear that there are no plans of sending in troops to fight Russia on Ukraine's behalf. I ask, why are they sending in troops then? Meanwhile, President Vladimir Putin of Russia, we are categorically against any further NATO's expansion eastward because it poses threat to us, Putin said. It's not us who is advancing to NATO, it's NATO coming to us. So is it illogical to talk about Russia's aggressive behavior? European countries will automatically be drawn into military conflict with Russia, Putin said. You will be drawn into that conflict beyond your will. There will be no winners. Well, he's probably right there. Putin signaled his readiness to continue negotiations and denied anew that Russia had any intention of invading Ukraine. German Defense Minister Christine Lambert said her country would add up to 350 troops within a few days to about 500, already a part of the NATO battle group in Lithuania. With this, we are strengthening our contribution to forces on NATO's eastern flank and sending a very clear signal of unity to our allies, she said. You're sending a signal, all right. 350 troops, 100,000+ troops. Biden already has deployed additional U.S. troops to Poland, Romania, and Germany, and a few dozen elite U.S. troops and equipment landed Sunday in southeastern Poland near the border with Ukraine. Britain said the UK was sending 350 troops to Poland to bolster NATO forces, joining the 100 Royal Engineers already there. 350 troops, 100 Royal Engineers, 350 troops to 500 perhaps, and a few dozen elite U.S. troops. You might be a little outgunned, fellas, just saying. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell defended the increasingly dire Western warnings that a Russian invasion may be imminent. Quote, this is not alarmism. This is simply the facts, Blinken said. And the facts are that we've seen over the past few months a massive amassing of Russian forces on Ukraine's borders, unquote. Borrell noted that 140,000 troops massed on the border is not to go have tea. Biden and Scholz also discussed contingency plans for providing gas supplies to Europe should Russia cut off supply. Europe is already dealing with the liquefied natural gas supplies being sapped by a cold winter last year, a summer with little renewable energy generation, and Russia delivering less than usual. Biden asserted the U.S. and other countries could make up a significant portion of the supplies should Russia move to cut off Europe. But energy experts say replacing Russian gas would be complicated and can't be done overnight. Export terminals cost billions of dollars to build and are working at capacity in the U.S. Well, we could have probably done a slightly better job and maybe had our European friends have a little bit more confidence in us had we not shut off the Keystone Pipeline on day one, Mr. Biden. But I digress. Let's move over to the Daily Mail from February 8th, 2022, an article entitled, Europe should not be dragged into carrying out Biden's threat to block Nord Stream 2 if Putin attacks Ukraine, says French minister in fresh blow to the Western alliance. Bruno Le Maire, speaking a day after Emmanuel Macron went to Moscow for talks with Putin, pointed out that Europe, which relies on Russia for gas and is in the midst of an energy crisis, will have to pay a much higher price than the U.S. for opposing it, because the European Union gets approximately a quarter of its crude oil from Russia, and they get approximately 1/3 of their natural gas from Russia. So any kind of conflict with Russia would not be great for the European Union. And that's part of the reason that they're divided with the idea of defending the Ukraine, not defending the Ukraine, supporting the U.S. in this effort, not supporting the U.S., because leaders of European countries are not exactly jumping up and down at the idea of turning off the fuel spigot for their citizenry. Getting back to the article, Mr. Mayer's comments expose yet another split in the Western alliance, trying to put on a united front against Russia, coming just a day after Joe Biden vowed to bring an end bring an end to the pipe after a meeting with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Germany is hugely reliant on fossil fuels for energy and stands to be one of the main beneficiaries of the pipe, which runs direct from Russia to its soil. Despite Biden's insistence to the contrary, it is unclear what, if any, power he would have to stop the pipe if Germany refuses to play ball, since it is only waiting for Scholz' go-ahead to start pumping. Let's not be dragged by the Americans to a position that is not one of the Europeans. Le Maire also hailed Macron of France decision to go to Russia and speak with Putin, despite little concrete progress being made. Thanks to Macron, Europeans have an independent position in this Ukrainian crisis, with interests that are different from those of the Americans, he said. We must be able to say this to the American allies the clearest possible way. We have different interests than those of the United States. Yeah, no kidding. But Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin's chief spokesman, the Russian strongman, again accused the West of ignoring his demands. I thought this was funny that Russia has demands of NATO. First of all, one of them has to do with Ukraine being banned from joining NATO, like forever. And that the alliance withdraw forces from the ex-Soviet states, which have been dismissed as non-starters. Macron said the presidential advisors of France, Germany, Russia, and Ukraine will meet Thursday in Berlin to discuss next steps. Dialogue is the only way to ease tensions, yet it will take time to get results, he said. On Tuesday, Russia's defense ministry said 6 large landing ships were moving from the Mediterranean to the Black Sea for exercises. Writing in the Times, Boris Johnson, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, warned Russia that an invasion of Ukraine will only make NATO stronger, but said he still believes principled and determined diplomacy could defuse the crisis. He urged allies to finalize plans for heavy economic sanctions that would come into effect, though, if Russia crosses the border into Ukraine. He said the UK is ready to bolster NATO forces in Latvia and Estonia as he prepared to meet the Lithuanian Prime Minister in London on Tuesday in support of the Baltic nations. More than 100 military personnel have arrived in Romania ahead of the deployment of about 1,000 NATO troops expected in the country in the coming days. The U.S. have said that about 1,000 alliance troops will be sent to Germany, from Germany to Romania, a NATO member since 2004. About 1,700 U.S. soldiers from the 82nd Airborne are also going to Poland. U.S. officials have portrayed the threat of an invasion of the Ukraine as imminent. Warnings Moscow has scoffed at, accusing Washington of fueling tensions. So a couple things. Number one, the Ukraine is not in NATO, and it's only a neighbor of some NATO countries, Turkey and so forth. Now, that being said, it's not NATO. My gut feeling is saying we should only respond militarily or activate our military or send them into harm's way if there's a direct threat against the United States to defend the United States, or if there's a direct threat or to defend one of our allies in one of our alliances, such as NATO. That's not the case here. The closest thing we have is, well, this might be a direct threat to a neighbor of one of our NATO partners. And I don't think that quite cuts the mustard. Now, second point is that I don't think Joe Biden has it in him to do this. I think he wants to flex his muscles. He wants to look like a tough guy standing up against Russia. But he announced last week he was sending in 3,000 U.S. troops to the region in response to this crisis. And I articulated where some of them are going. About 1,700 U.S. soldiers from the 82nd Airborne are going to Poland. Other ones are going elsewhere in the region. However, 3,000 troops, 10,000 troops, I don't think it really matters when you've got over 100,000 Russians and we've got 3,000 troops of ours. And if you add some of the NATO troops, maybe we do have 10,000 troops there. However, I think it's going to be an enormous human cost if it came to that, which is another reason why I don't think that it's a good idea to get involved with what would more than likely turn into a world war with Russia. Now, Ukraine's kind of really has nothing to do with the United States, you would think. So what are we doing there? It's not even in NATO. But you also have to think on the same, that said, that I believe, and probably a lot of people believe, that we have no business there. That said, 1914, Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke, Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in Bosnia, which led to World War I, which you might think had nothing to do with the United States, but it wasn't too long after that America was fighting in Europe in World War I. 1939, Poland, invasion of Poland by Nazi Germany. Might think that would have absolutely nothing to do with America on the other side of the Atlantic. But a couple years later, America is embroiled in a foreign conflict on the other side of the pond. So, gut feeling, keep out. I don't really think Joe Biden wants any part of that. We just got out of Afghanistan. He's the president that gets us out of wars. He does not want to be known as the president that got us into one, in my opinion. But I'd love to hear what you guys think about all this. So feel free to comment on the video. And please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me 11B. Subscribe to the blog on Facebook. Like the Facebook page. And follow me 11B on Twitter. And don't forget about the real Follow Me 11B. There we go. The real Follow Me 11B on Instagram. And we will see you on the next video.